Hi, my name is Colin Fain. I'm the CEO of Agronometrics, and I'm back with a blueberry gin tonic to look at the results of our trivia challenge. If you don't know what that was, it was a survey that we put out just kind of for fun to see what people think will happen next year. So we're gonna dive right into it and look at the results for the first question. If you guys want to kind of see some more background on this, there's a whole video about these questions, how they were brought up, and like the data behind it. This is going to be a quick overview. So, the first question is which country's fresh blueberry exports will see the largest percentage growth of volume during the 2025 season? So, the largest percentage growth in volume is how many kilos will be added relative to the previous year. This is kind of the tricky part. And this is where this question can kind of, or the final answer will kind of get a bit curious. So, this isn't necessarily asking who the biggest is necessarily. In that case, obviously, Peru would win. Cheers to you, Peru. But we're looking at who will grow the most relative to the previous year. In 2024, the answer would have been Peru again, given that, I mean, basically they were starting from a very low base. Because of El Nino and everything that happened in 2023, we saw a big drop in 2023. So the next year, that was a huge percentage growth. That said, if we were looking at 2023, Chile and Morocco came down while Mexico saw growth. So in that case, Mexico would have seen the largest percentage growth. So the jury's still out. What the respondents thought is that Peru will see the largest percentage growth. And that was 72% of the 22 responses that we received. Question number two, which emerging markets is expected to see the fastest growth in blueberry imports in 2025? And the options were Ireland, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, and Turkey. Turkey is the only one that didn't receive any votes for it. Ireland and Saudi Arabia tied, and Taiwan came in a third. A close third, if I might. That's actually pretty well distributed. So let's look at the data behind this one. And we can see that Ireland was the one that definitely grew the most and had the biggest share in 2024, followed by Taiwan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Maybe the intuition on Turkey was right. I know that there have been a lot of plantings there, and there's a lot of potential. There's also a lot of turmoil in the country, but who knows how this will all get turned around? I mean, look at how much Ireland jumped in just a year. But again, what people think is a tie between Ireland and Saudi Arabia, with Taiwan a close second. Question number three. Which origin is projected to see the most significant percentage growth in organic blueberry imports to the US in 2025? The expectation is for Peru, which received more than half of the responses, followed by Chile, Canada, and Mexico. We can look at 2024. Peru obviously saw the biggest percentage growth. Then we've got Chile and Mexico, which actually in 2024 saw a decrease in organic imports to the US, followed by Canada. Again, there can always be an upset. If we would have taken this measure in 2023, Canada would have won. They were the only ones that grew. So surprises in this industry are inevitable, and we're looking forward to what will actually happen in a follow-up video that we'll do about uh, sometime in the first 3 months of next year, looking at what the actual results are. Next question. Which European origin will lead fresh and processed blueberry exports during 2025? And the winner of this question, or the country which people think will lead fresh and processed blueberry exports, was Romania, slightly over 40% of the vote, followed closely by Portugal with 36.4, and then France at 22%. Lithuania got 0 votes. If we look at the data in 2024, France was the biggest exporter, a big jump on the previous year, kind of like another Ireland scenario. Lithuania was not that far off. Like Lithuania was actually in a really close third. And second was Portugal. I mean, unlike the difference here is 60 metric tons. Like, yeah, not a whole lot. And then in last place was Romania. So we will see what the actual results were, but this is kind of an interesting mix, like what people think is going on to what the data is actually telling us. So there may be an upset on that question. Let's go on to question 5. Which of China's main markets will grow the most in total export volume in 2025? The expectation is Hong Kong. So here we're looking at growing the most. So in total export volume, so just kilos, who's going to add the most kilos? Singapore is expected in second, Malaysia, and then Russia got 2 votes. What does the data actually look like? And Hong Kong is the highest, followed by Singapore, followed by Malaysia, followed by Russia. And these have been pretty big jumps from one year to the next. But Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia have all added relatively similar amounts. And so if we're kind of following this trend forward, it's going to be between one of them, but it's not a whole lot of tonnage that is going to throw one over the other. So that'll be a really interesting result as well once we get the 2025 data come in. Finally, question number 6 was, will Trump tariffs go into full effect in 2025? Keep in mind that this is a very dynamic situation, and what we mean by Trump tariffs has changed since we launched the survey and till now that I'm just looking at the answers. When we launched the survey, the tariffs have been brought into effect for Mexico and Canada. That has since been paused, sort of. I think. I'm not really sure. So, but because of the USMCA, there's no tariffs as of now on blueberry imports into the US, as long as you've signed up and are doing the protocol as is required. That said, considering that was the tariff regime that we were talking about when we launched the survey, should have been more specific. But who knew that then we're going to have tariffs on the entire world that would then be paused, and here we are. So I'm not really sure what this question means anymore. Assuming it was for Canada and Mexico, a lot thought that yes, it would be. We'll see what happens. Looking at this in 2026 will be interesting retrospect, if nothing else. All right. Well, that's our quick little review of the trivia results. We will follow up with this once we get the results for 2025. Thank you to everybody that participated. And we look forward to doing more fun things like this as the year goes on. Oh, yeah. And before I leave, we have to have another drink with the blueberry gin tonic. Cheers.